Yes, good morning. Good morning and good morning again. Welcome to another Saturday broadcast. Hey, listen, come on in for just 60 minutes. I promise you, we're going to go in hard this morning. We've got some very new material to cover with you today. We're trying to raise the awareness on how do you get through dark times. Listen, it's a very commonplace if you live in this world. And so I want to say welcome to you if you're joining by way of Facebook Live this morning. Certainly, if you're joining by way of YouTube, we certainly want to say good morning to you as well. We don't want to do a whole lot of preliminaries today. We want to jump right in. Come on in this morning. Welcome, welcome, and welcome again. We are here trying to give you some tools that you can navigate through some dark waters. Listen, all I want to do is to help you get to the next phase in your life. But in between those two phases, I want to tell you there's some tools that you need to be able to navigate. Come on in. I want to say welcome once again to our broadcast, Real Talk Life Issues Coaching Series. We're trying to empower you. As I often say, we're trying to set you up for success. That's exactly right. Today is a great day to be alive. I'm telling you right now, we want to pause and give our prayers and well wishes to those in Buffalo and those other school shootings, community shootings that we've seen as well. I am just so thankful that among all the things that I could have asked for, the good master allowed me to wake up on the wake up list this morning. I am telling you right now, we're in for a powerful session today. I want to get started. Good morning to my mentor, Mr. Flanagan. I got some slides today that will make you very proud that you're teaching and impartations, and this guy has certainly paid off. And so we're excited to get started today. I want to invite you to do me a quick housekeeping rule. Listen, if you're here, you're in the background, someone called me this week and said, you really blessed me. Good morning, Sister Satchel. I want to tell you, come on out in the weeds a little bit. Just say good morning. Let us know that you're in the pews with us today. I promise you, we won't mismanage your time, but I guarantee you one thing. We'll give you some tools to set you up for success on this road trip called life. My good friend and maestro musician all the way up from the Upper Virginia area, Dr. Judith Ward. Good morning to you as well. Listen, I got some tools I want to put in your toolbox this morning, and I want to get started. I want to ask you once again, just say good morning. Just say hello, amen. Any of them will do. It'll just let us know that you're in the pews with us today. I promise you, listen, if you don't get some tools, I'll give you your money back because I've done the research for you. Good morning, Dr. Montague. We certainly celebrate you this morning all the way from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Absolutely. Listen, if you don't get blessed today and have some tools in your toolbox, I'll give you your money back because I'm convinced that this thing called life has a lot of crooks and bends, and you need some tools to help you to navigate through those dark areas. Let's get started today. I want to also ask you a way that you can join this broadcast. Maybe you got somebody else you're trying to ask, hey, you going through some dark times. I would like for you to at least hear this guy one time. Good morning, Sister Ethel Fredericks, all the way from the Upper Virginia area as well. We're grateful to have you. Number one, you can join us on Facebook Live. You see it on your screen today. And you can also join us by way of YouTube. We're so grateful that you can go get any week you like and replay it as often as you like. I promise you, it won't tell you you've reached your maximum. So you can just play it as often as you like. This series right here, Navigating Through Dark Waters, is a direct result of a listener who said that they were going through a very dark time, couldn't even see their hand in front of their face. And so we're dedicating these sessions here to those readers or listeners rather who are trying to go through those dark places. It's like being on a cruise ship and you've hit a dark space and you can't even see your hand in front of your face. You look out on the bow of the ship and you can't see anything out there. You don't even know which way to go back to the shore. I'm talking to somebody already today because you feel like, Williams, I'm at my wit end. If that's you, I want to tell you to hold on and hold out, because I've got some tools to help you to navigate through those dark waters. Remember this every Saturday, just for 60 minutes. We address life issues. It's straight, honest, real talk. This is not for kids. This is not for the weak of heart, because we go strong in. This is the purpose. This is what we want to do, is to try to empower you. Listen, stay on the sideline now if you don't have a thick skin, because this right here is for the real people who are trying to find real answers to real life situations. Let's get started on our PowerPoint this morning. We prepared one for you, and I'd like for you to receive that as we go today. Our session today, next slide. This is on Real Talk, life's issues. This whole thing is about navigating through dark waters. Just imagine you've been on this cruise ship with us and you're trying to get to the other side. My friend, there are waves, there are whipping winds, there are all kind of nor'easterners. There's all kinds of things between the time you leave and the time you get to the other shore. Oh, I feel good on a Saturday, because the truth is life does have some strong winds and some strong waters. We're trying to tell you, don't die in the winter. I wish you would just type that in to the chat today, just to remind yourself, testify on a Saturday morning to yourself, don't die in the winter. We know about these other seasons, but let me tell you something today. Managing through a winter season is not for the faint of heart. It is for those persons who have gotten some skills and tools in their toolbox on how to navigate through those dark waters. Let's get to the next slide, please. So think about this. I want you to always know I'm a faith leader unapologetically, and this series and this broadcast is always going to be biblically grounded. And so there you have it. I can't wait to give you 3 points from this Psalms 142. That'll be my last closing one. You'll know we're closing when I get to Psalms 142. David tells us 3 powerful ways that you must employ in order to make it through that dark season. That's not today, though. I want you to stay tuned. I am telling you, he gives us 3 basic tools that you got to have all 3 in your toolbox. They're found in Psalms 142. In your free time this week, read it. See if you can pick out those 3 fundamental principles that David talks about. Next slide. And so always remember, I'm going to always remind you, life is about the perspective that you see. You see on the left. I saw someone just on TV this week. They were talking about vacations, and the person went to this exotic island where you could go under water and just see. I thought about this series. I said, Lord have mercy. Listen, you put your goggles on and you can just see for miles under the water. What a blessing it is to be in a season where you can see your way clear. Woo, let me tell you, it'll make you shout, it'll make you shout, it'll make you sing, it'll make you put a skip in your walk. I'm telling you now, when you live in that picture on the left. But let me tell you something, every day is not going to be like that picture on the left. I put this slide up to constantly remind us, I don't care, the best of the best. I'm telling you, life is going to give you a season of those dark waters. That picture is about those ripping, turbulent waves, and then the other part is, look at that dark water. Look at the comparison between the two. On the left, you can see the coral reefs and all those things miles away. And on the right, if you drop your hand under that water, you wouldn't even know which way to even try to start going to look for it. And that's how it is in life sometimes. Listen, and when you're on that picture in the right, don't give up, don't give in, don't give out. All you have to do is learn to just keep taking one more step. There it is right there. That's a tool you need to have in your tool belt. I wish somebody would type in the chat, one more step. Listen, I'm trying to get somebody to testify on a Saturday morning. Just one more step. That's all you got to do. If you take one more step, I promise you, life will be sweeter and sweeter. Can I get the next slide, please? And so just keep in mind, I said this all the time, that if you're in a dark season right now, another tool you need in your toolbox is affirmations. You must talk to yourself. You must equip yourself with some affirmations that will remind you that whatever it is you're going through right now is so dark until you can't see your hand in front of your face. This too shall pass. Listen, I come to remind somebody on a Saturday morning that no season lasts forever. I'm telling you, I used this example once and I'll use it again. When I was in my seminary journey, they took our seminary class down to Louisiana for Hurricane Katrina. Let me tell you, it was devastation on a level that I had never seen before. But I'm telling you, you go now to the lower ninth, that season is over. And I want to help somebody. While it was devastating, while it was a catastrophe, the truth is the season is over. That season of Hurricane Katrina no longer exists. And I'm telling you that whatever season you're in, it will not last forever. God bless you on today. And then keep in mind that the sun will shine again. I was just reminded of all these April showers going on around here. I drove down to um, uh, Augusta, Georgia, this past week for a funeral. And let me tell you something. It rained the entire time. I was an hour late. Good, I left early and gave some travel time. But the reality is, it rained so bad, even to the interment. I thought to that family, my gosh, listen, what a way to lay your loved ones to rest. And do you not know? I stayed overnight, and the next day, it was shining just like nobody's business. I'm telling you right now, it was a gentle reminder that the sun will shine again. And then lastly, I love the song by the late Reverend Timothy Wright. He says, I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. You may be in trouble right now, but can I tell you something? It won't last forever. Next slide, please. I want to just remind you of last week. I wanted to jump straight in. Our other sessions are on the YouTube, and you can go back and review those. But today, I wanted to talk to somebody, just a quick reminder on how to recognize the approach of your season. I'm convinced that so many people give up right at the threshold door. I've seen it. I've had it happen to me. Listen, I remember one time I was traveling. I thought I was lost. Nothing looked familiar. And I had driven and driven and driven. And then I said, I'm getting ready to turn around because I got bad directions. And then my internal self, the Holy Spirit, spoke and said, just go one more block, my friends. It was when I went that next block that I found my destination. And I'm telling you that you have to learn how to recognize when the season is ready to change. Next slide, please. We talked about the best seasons. Blessings have their seasons, and we will be able to recognize the approach. The good Lord gave us the assurance in Isaiah 43:19. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. And here's the catch 22. Shall you not know it? It is a wonderful assurance that God, in his good self, will be able to put something within us that will help us realize that this is the end of one season and the beginning of another. Next slide, please. So we talked about, I hope you wrote this down. I know time ran out and I only gave you one. So I wanted to at least start here. I had several people say, you're wrong. You didn't cover the other two. No worries, no worries, no worries. You'll get the other two here now. Number one, we said God plants us in a stable and a secure place. Number two, our inner clock is set for a divine appointment. And number three, the enemy comes in like a flood. I wanted to talk first of all about how we will recognize our season. Now, we talked last week about how God puts us in a place and you have to learn to ride out the storm. As I just said, if I had turned around one block too soon, I would have missed my next season. And I want to talk to somebody today real briefly. We talked about being able to get somewhere and be planted, like the good book tells us that we are planted like a tree beside the rivers of life, rivers of water. I want to tell you something. God plants us in a stable and a secure season. And you know that you're getting ready to get to your next season when you're grounded. You're not ready to pull up and pluck out and throw it away and just start all over. No, 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 no. Please don't do that. There's nothing any worse than getting to the threshold of the new season and turning around. Oh my gosh, who does that? And so we talked about, don't be these people who hop from church to church because they don't like what the preacher said, or they don't like what the choir members did to them, or they don't like the way the usher handled them. The truth of the matter is, every local church has their own hangups. Did you hear what I said? I don't care where you go. You say this church, I'm leaving them because they got a bunch of liars over there. Well, fine. When you find your new location, I promise you, without any fear of contradiction, that there'll be some hangups there. Let me tell you this. This is free of charge. I remember being in a pastor's meeting, and they had a young man come into our session, and he was bragging about his accomplishments. I know I got to move, but this is going to bless somebody today. This young man says, I'm in town, and I got a lot of ideas, and I'm just looking for the right place to land so that some local ministry can be blessed by all that I got to offer. And then they said, one of the pastors, he was one of the senior pastors in the city, he raised his hand. He said, young man, can I ask you a question? Have you joined the church anywhere yet? No, I haven't joined no church. He said, I've been to several of them, but I haven't joined one yet. So the preacher knew where he was going. He said to the young man, well, what you waiting on? He said, I'm trying to find that right church. Ooh, let me tell you. Somebody today gonna be blessed. The old minister said to him, young man, when you get to that right church, it will be right no more, because you are not all the way right yourself. And it was a stunning observation that at the end of the day, what the minister was trying to tell him is that you have to get somewhere and get grounded. Listen, I don't know who I'm talking to today, but somebody's on the fence about a ministry. And I just want to say to you that you have to get somewhere and get grounded, because if not, you will be tossed to and fro, always up and down, bounce around like a ping pong ball. Now, there's another thing about when God plants us in a stable place. Oh, Mr. Flanagan, I want to thank you for the teaching that you put in our science class. I did some research on this this concept called fungi Christians. Ooh, I wish you would write that down. Fungi Christians. That there is a plant called a fungi, which we know that this fungi doesn't have a root system. They do not have any chlorophyll. So guess what? They don't need light in order to survive. Oh, but let me help you real good. A fungi simply attaches itself to the side of a tree and grows. Because it has no root system, let me help you real good. The slightest disturbance, such as a strong wind or harsh weather, can easily dislodge it or blow it away. You say, well, what does that have to do with me? Great. I'm glad you asked me to tell you. If we are not part of a Bible-believing, God-loving, Christ-centered church fellowship, we are like that fungi. without a root system. Every little disturbance in our lives uproots us and blows us away. Yes, all because we are not rooted and anchored in God. Let me tell you something right now. You know, number one, God plants us. Don't be like the fungy Christians or fungy believers. The least little thing. Oh, they didn't speak to me this morning. Oh, they said something a little harsh to me. And away we go. Not me. I've said to the enemy, my adversary. Let me look straight in the camera and tell you, I had to tell my adversary, if that's the best you got, I got it made. Because that right there is not going to uproot me. I told you, this is real talk for real Christians and real believers. And I came today to tell somebody, number one, that God plants us in a stable and secure place. You got to get somewhere and stay there. Yes, I'm telling you right now. Bloom where you blossom where you planted. That's what I want to tell somebody. We need this season of struggle. The periods help us to destroy our pride in our own ability. When we have hard times, these dark days that we can't see our way, they reinforce our dependency and our sufficiency on God. Can I tell you something? Today, when God sends the chilly winds of winter, listen to me, to blow on your circumstances, we still have to trust in a higher power. In spite of our dislike for the blinding and blowing and harsh winds and the icy grips of winter season, can I tell you today, unequivocally, I boldly declare that your pain has purpose. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then secondly, how about our inner clock? I wanted to tell you that God, in his infinite wisdom, has put and predestined a appointed time to bring his promises to pass. Don't give up before the clock strikes 12. Ooh, who am I talking to today? The clock is almost to strike 12. And I want to tell you, just hang in there because God has put an inner clock on the inside of you. It is a way for him to set the clock because he knows that there is a divine time for him to bless you with your next season. I don't know who I'm talking to on this Saturday, but I want to boldly tell you that God has an inner clock. And let me tell you, it's just another way of saying that when God gets ready to bless you, don't make me get happy on a Saturday. Let me tell you something, ain't a devil and an enemy and a foe alive that can stop you from your next season. Let me tell you something. It is a wonderful way of saying what God has for you is for you. Don't you get weary. Don't get weighed down. All I just want you to do is to know that God has put an inner clock on the inside of you, and that clock is ticking. Every day you get up is ticking, and at the appointed time, it'll get to 12 straight up, and the good master will say, it's your time now. Oh, I feel good because I feel my clock ticking. And sometimes when the harsh winds come, I have to remind myself, Williams, the clock is still ticking. I'm trying to talk to somebody today. You ought to just testify to yourself. The next time you get in a dark situation, you remind yourself, my clock is ticking. You ought to tell somebody today, my clock is ticking. They're going to say, what do you mean? That means that my time is coming. This too shall pass. I want to tell you, God even sets the timer for your activation. Can I tell you? When it's your time to be blessed, God puts everything in order. I want to help somebody today that this inner clock, watch this. Those children of Israel had spent some 400 years in bondage. I want you to listen good to me. That they were in harsh terms, harsh labor working circumstances, making bricks without straw. Let me tell you something. It was a very laborious task. And I'm sure out of those 400 years, they had to ask, does God care about me? Where is this God that Moses had been talking about? And guess what? At the appointed time, the clock struck 12, and the Bible says, you can read it, by the way, in Exodus 12, 32 to 36. Exodus 12, 32 to 36. It says that God gave them favor with Egypt and the children of Moses. Listen to this. They let them borrow their jewels of silver. They let them borrow their jewels of gold. They even let them have their clothes. They said, do whatever you need to do because we want you gone. You know why? Because God had set all the pieces in order and it was their time. There was nothing that could stop them from coming out of Egypt. I came today to tell somebody that God has an inner clock for you. And guess what? After they got through dealing with all those plagues, let me tell you something. Pharaoh said, take whatever you want and get out of here. It was God's way of reminding his people, when the clock strikes 12, I want to tell you something. Ain't no one and nobody big and bad enough to stop you from coming to your next season. I am here to tell somebody today that your blessings will come. Can I tell you this? I usually use it when I'm closing on a sermon, that God will take your enemies when your clock strikes 12, and he'll even use your enemies to bless you. I'm telling you now, the good book says he'll make your enemies be your footstool. Can I tell you a story that I tell people all the time about a lady who he had a lot of children, and she had these children. She was hungry, and I want to tell you something, that she would pray every day. God, send some food to this house. You see me and these children. And I want to tell you something. She had a neighbor who didn't believe in God. He was so tired. She kept a window up praying. He was so tired of hearing that woman pray to God. He went down to the grocery store, put some groceries in a box and set it on the door and rung the bell and knocked on the door. Here comes the lady. She says, who put all these groceries on my doorstep? The man said, I heard you in there praying to your God. He said, listen, your God didn't do this. I went down to the grocery store. I paid for the groceries. I put the groceries in the box. Y'all gonna make me get happy on a Saturday. He said, and then I brought the food and put it on your doorstep. The lady said, excuse me, sir, I got to go back to my closet again. She went back to her closet and she said, Lord, not only do I want to thank you that you made ways out of no way, but you made the devil bring it to me. Let me tell you today that God will use your enemies when it's your time for your divine clock. And then finally, I wanted to cover just a little bit on this last point. The enemy comes in like a flood. Can I tell you, difficult times, we should rise to the occasion, and our faith should come to the surface. When the enemy comes in like a flood, by the way, that's a scripture out of Isaiah 59 and 19, actually. It says, when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will lift up a standard. When the enemy comes in, we rise up. We put on our spiritual armor. Listen, and we make sure that our feet are properly shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, and we make sure that our helmet of salvation fits well. We make sure that we take and properly shod the preparation of the gospel of peace. And most importantly, we see that our sword is sharpened on both edges and go to war. That's what I want to talk to somebody today. That if you're in the deep, dark parts of the sea, you can't see nothing else. At the very least, arm yourself for war, that you can be able to stand. A gentleman wrote a song, What Do You Do when you don't know what to do. He simply says, stand. I want to tell you, when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will lift up a standard. It is simply to tell you that this too will pass. The devil will do anything to hinder and obstruct you from stepping over into a full, wonderful new season. That's what I wanted to tell you about 3 wonderful ways that you need to know how to recognize your season. Number 1, God will put you in a place that you'll be stable. You won't be bouncing from here to there. And number 2, you need to always know that your clock is ticking. That I don't care what it looks like right now. And sometimes, even if you suffer a L, know that you still win the war. So you sometimes may even suffer a defeat, but you just brush yourself off. Even if you fall and you come short, I want to remind you that we fall down, but we get back up. The difference between a saint and a sinner is that the saint gets back up again. Your inner clock is ticking. And then finally, the enemy comes in like I said, don't worry, he gonna come. But the reality is God will lift up a standard. And so that's it. Next slide, please. I wanted to talk with you a little bit today, a season of pain. Lord have mercy, for a season of gain. That this thing called life, and it has persecutions. But I came to tell you today that good morning, Sister Denise Fonville, all the way from Jacksonville, North Carolina. I want to tell you today that a season of pain for a season of gain. You need to know today that even if it's dark and you can't see your face in front of you, that season is preparing you for your next miracle. I came to tell you, listen, don't throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel, because if you throw it in, you got to go right back through that test again. Yes, that's how life works. Where are my school teachers at? Where are my educators at? You know, just like I do, that when a student doesn't meet the threshold, you got to take it again. And sometimes you take it till you pass it, but the reality is that these persecutions are here for us. I want to start today by talking about a season of pain for a season of gain. When I was in my doctoral journey, we were able to read a book called by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. The book was called Cheap Grace. If you've never read that book, I want you to take a moment and just write it down. I'll try to put it in the chat before I get off. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He wrote a book called Cheap Grace. And what he said was he found that most people who call themselves believers really don't want to pay the price. If I hung up this broadcast right now, I would be well served, because guess what? In this season of pain, there's a season of gain, but most people don't want to pay the price. Dietrich Bonhoeffer says that if you get real grace, I'm trying not to get happy. They tell us not to get happy to the end of the broadcast. I'm telling you, I'm doing my level best, because what Dietrich Bonhoeffer says is cheap grace is the kind most people have. But when you want real, authentic grace, you find it on Calvary's cross. The kind of grace that let people pierce you in the side, the kind of grace that let people put a thorn of crowns on your head, the kind of grace that will let people nail scars and nails in your hand. But guess what? That grace is so expensive until it cost my Savior his life. And then the real benefit of that kind of grace comes up, because we know on the third day he rose again with all power in his hand. I'm here today to ask somebody, what kind of price are you willing to pay? Yes, every good conversation has a relevant question, and I got one for you today. What kind of price are you willing to pay? Often people want what others have without paying the price they paid. Woo, let me talk. I know I'm talking good today. Listen, I heard somebody say one time, until you walk a mile in my shoes, don't even think about asking for the blessings that I have incurred. Let me tell you something. You don't know what people have been through when you say, oh, I want to be like them. No, until you're willing to pay the price they paid, then don't be worried about the blessings they have incurred. I'm here today to tell you, when you look at a person, you have no idea what they've been through. But I want to tell you, most of the time, people look at somebody that's been used by God, or they're a great speaker, or oh, their sermon moved people, or oh, that book was life-changing. And I say, until you have walked a mile in their shoes, you should not be trying to, to desire or envy their blessings. Uh, I'm here today to tell you that, that when you think about what your story is, there are people who couldn't have took what you've gone through. I know I'm talking good today. Can I tell you, I feel real good, and I'm trying to keep myself grounded. That can I help somebody today that what you have been through, others would have lost their mind. But the good master has equipped you with tools in your toolbox to keep you pressing on towards the mark of the high calling. And I'm telling you right now, when you look at what you've been through, others would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. And that's why I tell people, here's one for you to write down. You don't look like, ready for this, what you've been through. Oh, I'm trying to help somebody today that people look at you, your nice dress, your nice appearance, your hair looks nice, smell nice, talk nice, but they don't know your story. And I came to tell you today that when you have a story, you will know beyond any shadow of a doubt that I'm on the right track. Today, when I say a season of pain, God in his good self is preparing you for your blessing. I know I got to move on, but what I want to tell you is this: write this down. That your dark season is really a setback. You ready for this? For your setup. Yes, yes. That sometimes we have a setback, but the setback is nothing more a setup for your comeback. Yes. I want to talk to somebody today. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't throw in the towel because it's so dark that you can't see your way. I came to tell you that there is a season of pain. But let me help you real good. That pain is pointing itself for your next miracle. Let me ask you this. If you knew that all you had to do was take one more step and your life would change forever, don't you know that you would be energized to say, I got to take one more step? I don't care how painful it is. If you knew that your next big breakthrough was one step away, Lots of times I tell people that you have to learn to praise your way out of your storm. I'm talking good to somebody today, because the reality is that when you learn to praise your way through, let me tell you, it's psychological and it's also supernatural. Here's the reason why. Next slide. I want to talk just a little bit about this. There's a couple of things that your pain and persecution is necessary. That's what I want to tell somebody today. Listen, you may say, listen, there's no one going through this like me. And their assignment is not as deep as yours. I came today to tell somebody, you always know how deep your assignment by the level of persecutions that you endure. It's another way of saying, the stronger the trial, the stronger the testimony. The more furious the storm, the more faithful the steps will be. I say it like this. Y'all ready? Hope you're taking notes. Weak faith equals weak storms. Strong faith equals strong storms. I'm trying to help somebody today that if you knew that God had one more turn, you just need to make one more turn. And you're able to say, like so many, look where the Lord has brought me from. I want to tell you that the cost of being tremendously used by God, this is what Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, is that many people want the glory, but they don't want the grief. Woo, somebody ought to write it down right there. I'm trying to help somebody that many people, they want the glory, but they don't want the grief. No, because I tell you right now, in this life, my good scholarly seminarian, Pastor Jamal Brown, God bless you so much, my friend, my Shaw alumni. It's great to see you. I want to tell you today that you need to measure the strength of your assignment by the strength of your persecution. Can I talk to somebody today that quit complaining about the very thing that's going to set you up for your next miracle? I'm trying my best not to get happy. They taught us not to do that in seminary, by the way. I'm trying my best not to get happy, because why? Sometimes in Matthew 5, he says, rejoice, listen to this, and be exceedingly glad when men shall persecute you and say all manners of evil against you falsely. For great is your reward in heaven. Can I tell you something? I had to tell somebody just the other day. They were giving me a hard time, called me a name that was not nice. And I said, thank you, because you put my name in heaven. Because I believe, yes, I do, that when you persecute the believer, you're only setting them up for the next big blessing in their life. And so I'm telling somebody today, don't you dare give up. I know it's hard. Sometimes I know it feels like you're walking it by yourself. Sometimes I can take it a step further. It almost feels like the Lord is not even caring because of the intensity of your trial. But I need to testify today that there are things, if I shared with you on this broadcast, you would say that's humanly impossible. But I want to tell you something. I lived through it, and today I stand as a mouthpiece for God above to tell you that your persecution is nothing more than a setup for your next big miracle. I'm telling you right now, you ought to at least have this on your radar, that you monitor how deep the persecution, because it is a direct correlation. That is to say that it is a direct connection to how deep God wants it. It costs to be used by God. Who am I talking to? People want to be anointed by God. People want to be, just go and just set people free. People want to be that great orator for God. But it costs. It cost Moses his entire princeship in Pharaoh's house. Yes, it did, because the moment that man of God realized that God had called him and that God had been working in his life all the time, from the time his mama put him on the Nile all the way to the time he got in Pharaoh's house. And then it came the point that he realized it cost. He saw a man killing another Egyptian, and it was at that point that it costed him his royalship. And they told Moses, he sent him out into the desert, y'all. From the palace to the desert. I want to talk to somebody, but it didn't end there. When the end result, God restored him and told him that he would make it over into the promised land, not a physical one, but he allowed Moses to still not be lost. Let me tell you, you see people being used by God. I know I got to move off this point, but this is a life-changing point, that it costs to be used by the master. And don't you fool yourself. Anytime you see someone that's being used by God, whether it's preaching, teaching, miracle working, prophesying, it does not matter. You being used by God, it costs. And I want to tell you something. Today, I want to tell you, how much are you willing to pay? That was my big relevant question. The cost of being used by God is extremely high. And there are many people who simply do not want to pay the price. They want to sit back and say, I wish I could do that. I wish I could have that. Well, you don't know. Listen, there's nothing any more precious than to have a testimony that, listen, I've been down to sick door. Listen, I know people even on this broadcast today, they've been so sick that the doctors wrote them off and told them, listen, we can't do nothing else for you. And then you turned your face to an almighty God, and God turned that situation around. And guess what? Now you know God in ways that you never knew him before. You can stand up boldly and tell people, I know God to be a doctor. He stepped in when the natural physicians didn't even know what else to do. It costs to be used by God. I remember, this is my last point, I remember a young man, he lost everything. He said he couldn't even pay attention. He couldn't even pay for good luck. Everything he touched turned sour. I was in a church service when the brother said it. And then I knew a man that knew him after he left the church service. The young brother was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he said that he went through a season of loss. Everything he touched turned bad. And that night, listen to me, that night in the service, he said, and one day, I don't know where this lady came from. He said, I was at the bank and the people told me I didn't have enough money in my account. Ooh, I feel so good. The man turned around and walked out, and they said when he got outside, there was a lady that said, Mister, you don't know me and I don't know you, but we both believe in the Lord. He said, how did you know? She said, I have the spirit of discernment. Lord have mercy on a Saturday morning. And she said these words to that young man. Sir, what you don't know is your life is getting ready to change today. I'm a realtor and I have all kinds of properties. She says in her pocketbook was a set of keys, y'all. True story. Gave this young man this keys to a house he didn't even pay for. Let me tell you something. I feel good on this here day that your persecution is a setup for your next miracle. Oh, it didn't stop there. She said, listen, I got 3 or 4 cars. Listen, I'm going to just give you one. Let me tell you something. That young man stood there with tears in his eyes as he was telling his testimonial. He said, listen, I was at life's bottom. I felt like life was not even worth living. And I went to the bank to try to get some money. And the lady just told me I didn't even have no money in the account. Let me tell you something. The man is preaching now. And let me help you real good. He ain't hurting for nothing because his season of pain was really a season leading to his gain. Listen, I want to move from there, and I want to also talk about a valley of weeping. I have found that God he does his greatest work in the deserts of our lives. Can I talk to somebody today? Who will raise your hand like me and say, you know what? There are some times I probably wouldn't even have prayed if I didn't have a dark storm in my life. That dark storm was really the bridge towards the next season in my life because it was so painful. It cost so much. And every time I turn around, I find myself talking to God. And ultimately, if I must raise my hand and say, if I didn't have that valley experience, I'm not so sure that I would have been as close to God as I am today. And so, what does that mean? It simply means this, my friends, that you and I are destined for greatness, and God uses the valley of weeping to move us along. Because sometimes I'm convinced that I know people that don't even have God on their mind. Can I be real about it? Yeah, and they just simply go through life, and then they have a tragedy. I remember this just in my career. A person says I didn't even really know about God. All I knew was to say, "Have mercy." A situation came, and guess what? It turned their life around forever. And all I'm saying to you today is that maybe, just maybe, what you're going through today, that dark season, that pain that can't seem to be removed, that bill that just won't seem to go away, that idea that just can't quite seem to come to fruition. I'm here today to tell you that God uses what he calls the valley of weeping to move us to that next miracle. Loving God with all our heart is a truth that is becoming a reality to many believers during this pandemic. You have people who never even prayed before. This pandemic has turned people to a higher power because I've heard people say they qualified for um, payments that they had not even before qualified to, got extensions that they had not had said no to before. Listen, these dark spaces are designed to teach us, you ready for this, to have endurance. Endurance plays a major role in our successes in God. The word endurance does not conjure up warm, wonderful feelings most of the time because when you say I got to have endurance, I'm thinking about track and field. And let me tell you something. You jump out there on a 440 and don't have no endurance, they're going to know real fast that you didn't practice and that you don't have the wind to finish the race. And so I'm asking you today, what is it that you need to go back and reassess and tell yourself, I will not give up because I'm on the way to my miracle. I got one more slide, and it's called the 7 Keys to Survival. I wanted to share this with you today. The next slide, please, because when you're in that valley, when you're down, you can't quite seem to figure out how to take the next step. I want to give you 7 steps to put in your tool belt. Number 1, practice smiling every day. Can I help somebody? A pleasant countenance frightens off your enemies. It's hard to defeat a happy person. You come at them with your negative energy and they laugh right in your face. Practice smiling. It is your outward expression of an inward conviction. Ooh, let me tell you, it confuses the enemy. Folks know they tried to set traps for you. Folks know that they tried to lie on you. Who am I speaking to today? There are folks who have tried to sabotage your dreams. There are folks who tried to put these stumbling blocks in your loved one and children's way. You know they did it. And then when you see them, you can practice smiling. You know why? Because the smile is an outward expression of an inward conviction. Number two, my time is about up. Understand that God sees you. You ready for this? And knows everything you're going through. One of the best things about going through for me as a faith leader, when I get a call for someone who has lost a loved one or someone who has experienced a tragedy of some kind, I don't try to preach to them. I don't try to give them the 7 top scriptures to remember during grief. No. I don't do any of that. All I simply say is, you're not in this by yourself. Can I tell you, most of the times people that are dealing with depression and suicide and all these mental illnesses have come to a resolve within themselves that no one knows it quite like me. No one's going through it quite like me. No one's ever experienced this quite like me. And I came to tell you today that God sees you. Listen, I don't have time to talk about it today, but one of the scriptures in Mark's gospel, Mark 5, where they're going across the sea and they're struggling and straining. And let me tell you something, the disciples of Jesus are struggling. And the Bible says, and Jesus saw them. Let me tell you right now, as long as God can keep his eyes on me, I got to go. Listen, my time is about out. I want to also tell you, number 3, look to each day with renewed courage and strength. Every day is another day of Thanksgiving. When this day ends, you can say, Father, thank you that I survived. That's all you want to do is to get through today. Quit trying to worry about 3 weeks from now and 3 months from now. Just get through today. I'm talking to somebody who's in the middle of trying to give up right now. And I'm telling you, don't give up. Just get through today. That's all we want you to do today. Don't worry about nothing else. Just find a way to get through today. Number 4, do something kind for someone else. Can I tell you something? When I get down and out, listen, when I feel like I'm not really connecting 100, you know what I do? I go out and I bless someone. Can I tell you, there is an inward intrinsic value inside each of us when you hope you're going to move through these circumstances and then you bless somebody in the process. Let me tell you something right now. God is so amazing that on my tombstone, on my obituary, I'm telling all my family, one thing you got to put, if his favorite line was, if I can help somebody as I travel along this way, then my living shall not be in vain. Listen, it's a wonderful adage. When you're downing out, go find somebody and bless them. I tell you, it'll pick your spirits up. Number 5, sing yourself happy. Find a song. We know music is transformational. David played the devil out of Saul. Let me tell you something. It's something to be said about music. I ain't trying to tell you what kind of music to listen to. I'm just simply telling you to listen to some music. I'm a musician. I love all kinds of music. I'm trying to be right frank about it. And all I'm trying to tell you is find some music that help you get through your dark time. Next thing is remind yourself, my time is out. Remind yourself that you belong to God. Remind yourself that you belong to God and remind yourself who you are. You are God's child and God is your father. And then finally today, look good. My daddy told us a long time ago, son, you don't have to look like what you're going through. Get up from there. Clean yourself up. Wash your face. Cut your hair. Brush your teeth. Use some mouthwash. Who am I talking to? My time is out today, but I'm trying to tell you, when you in the middle of a dark situation, look good because it confuses the enemy and your adversaries. That's all I have for you today. I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Listen, we'll dive a little bit deeper into this whole concept about being able to take your pain and flip it to something that will actually work to your good. I gotta go. My 60 minutes is up. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in with me next week. We'll just channel just a little bit deeper into this purpose of this pain. It's really a wonderful thing to do, but you have to have some tools to be able to flip it and use it to your advantage. Listen, can I pray for you? The Lord bless you today. I want God to bless you real good. May he strengthen you, to give you the endurance to look through and to look fine and to look above your circumstances, that men and women might know that you serve an amazing God, and that this too shall pass. When you know that this, Father, is only a test that we're going through, it'll give us a little more pep in our step. We thank you in advance. Give somebody today the courage to just finish today. Don't let them worry about next week or tomorrow, but just give them courage to finish today. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. The Lord be gracious unto you, and may he give you peace until we meet again. I love you. My time is out, and we'll see you on next Saturday for 60 minutes. God bless you.